Hey everybody, it's Chad with Nobody Else's Auto. It is 7 o'clock Sunday evening. Time for Sunday night live chat. We are live on both Facebook and YouTube. We'll give everybody a few seconds to get their notifications and jump on with us, and we will get rolling here very soon. All right, we got some guys jumping on with us. William's on with us. We've already got some comments coming from William from Pennsylvania. Glad you made it. Definitely likes the valve cover already. Vic from Iowa's on. William's voting not to restore hoods, so we'll definitely get into that a little bit too. Glad you guys like that if we're already getting comments on the cord hoods. So anyway, as always, appreciate you guys coming back, hanging out with us again once again on Sunday evening. As always, questions, comments, be sure to throw them up there. You know, sometimes I don't always have all the answers, but a lot of times some of our other viewers do, and they'll chime in as well. Lee from New York is on with us. Randy's on. Glenn from Minnesota, another one of our regulars, back on with us. Lots of familiar names popping up, and week after week, and we do this, but that's what makes it fun. I just never imagined that you guys would continue to come back and hang out here every Sunday night. John from Seattle's on with us. Jess is on with us. Glad you made it back, Jess. I know you guys missed last week because you had holidays and stuff going on. I think heard that from a few people. They had holiday stuff going on last weekend and couldn't make it, but that's all right. This is a pretty informal event, so whenever you can make it, that's always great. So Jeff's on with us on Facebook. David's on with us on YouTube. So like I said, keep the comments coming. We'll sure try to catch whatever we can. Got my buddy Mike on with us. Got Mike on Facebook. Got Mike Shook with us on YouTube. So we got Mike's coming in from all the way around. And we'll go ahead and get rolling here shortly. Dan from Defiance is on with us. Glad you made it back, Dan. Scott's on with us on Facebook. Another great group jumping on with us as always. And just a bunch of cool car guys hanging out because that's what we're here for. Anyway, hope everybody had a good week. Mine was kind of bananas, but that's good. Chris is on with us on YouTube. Lots of familiar names popping up with us. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and throw a share out there if you got some friends you think might want to jump on with us as well. And you can also let them know if you have friends that are not on Facebook, they can always jump on with us on YouTube. Hopefully our Facebook feed will work tonight. The last couple weeks, we've been getting a lot of comments that Facebook has had a terrible lag, sometimes up to 30 to 40 seconds behind YouTube from some people that, kind of keep an eye on them on both. Mick just jumped on with us on YouTube. Lance is on with us on Facebook, and Craig from Albuquerque, just got on. So, like I said, not too big a deal other than when we get into trivia and things like that. When we get to the trivia question, it's kind of tough to win an oil can sometimes if you're 30 or 40 seconds behind the guys on YouTube. But anyway, like I said, we'll keep our fingers crossed that it works. Technology is great, but it doesn't always cooperate. But just be forewarned that we have been having issues with the Facebook lag time. That's been quite a bit slower than YouTube. So anyway, our good friend Mike Shook says Facebook's not working for him. So maybe there is still some issues with Facebook. Like I said, hopefully it keeps up with YouTube. But after what I've been hearing from people that have been kind of keeping an eye on both of them over the last 2 or 3 weeks, Facebook has definitely had some feed issues. So Lance is on both as well, and he says YouTube is working better for him as well compared to Facebook. So we may still have some Facebook feed issues, something with their system. So we'll go with it. We'll deal with whatever we can and do it best we can. So but that's on their end. There isn't anything I can do on it from my end. Tim just jumped on from Tennessee. On my end, I'm on 2 computers with 2 separate webcams, and both computers are wired directly into my modem. I don't run anything on Wi-Fi. So I have a direct cable feed on both YouTube and Facebook from my end. So if there is a delay or an issue like that, it's got to be in the system. Mark from Keithville just jumped on YouTube. Evelyn just jumped on with called out some international parts. Appreciate that. Jose from Miami. Okay, Evelyn must be his wife in his account. Carl from Pennsylvania is on. Glad you made it on as well, Jose. So anyway, what's happening in the world out there this week? Old School's on with us. He just found a local, so maybe Old School's going to find some cool stuff too. Tegan wants the YouTube name. It is Nobody's Show is the YouTube channel. Just Nobody's Show. Very simple, very easy to find, hopefully, so you can always catch it on there as well. And if you've got friends who aren't on Facebook, by all means, they can definitely jump on there. Jason's on. Glad Jason made it back with us tonight. Haven't seen you on in a little bit, Jason. Says he's got bad service, but he's here. That's all that matters. Lots of stuff popping up on Facebook. Jerry from Albuquerque. Ken's on with us. John from Rhode Island. Glad you guys all made it tonight. But anyway, what's happened in the old car world this week? Another Mecum auction was the biggest thing. Mecum had Houston this weekend. Let's see. Varkin, any 62, 65 D100s. I've got a 64 D100 short wide bed that's pretty much an intact, complete truck. It's about the best candidate I've got. I do have one other long bed as well. It's a half or 3/4 ton in that era. So you can give me a call on those and we can go over some of the details after we get done. Let's see. Old School says McLean's Auto Wreckers is one he just found that's near to him. Cameron Burns is on. It definitely into the Hemi valve cover as well. Ken from New Jersey just got on with us on Facebook. So, anyway, we've already had a few comments about the valve cover. I guess we can go ahead and catch that real quick before we get into any news tonight. But the one behind me, obviously, we've had a few up here before. I'm a huge Hemi valve cover fan. I've got quite a few of them. The one we've got hanging up here tonight is a little bit different. This is one that I had always kind of wanted. Finally found one a couple years ago at the Springfield swap meet. But this is the industrial version. This was a power unit for like an irrigation well, or even they actually even used them on air raid sirens. So that the industrial was a pretty neat one. But we got Jill on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it tonight, Jill. But these had dents in them for adjustable rockers. They obviously said industrial here. There were various ones of these. This is, like I said, this is one of my favorite ones, but there's several ones that I don't have. They also have a Marine, a Chrysler Marine, where it just says Marine instead of industrial. I do not have a Marine one. I'd love to have a Marine to go with this. John from Washington's on with us. Glad you made it, John. Jason, our OTR buddy, is in Nebraska. Been running hard in the West. He seems like he's always driving when the show comes on. Well, we're glad you made it tonight, Jason. If you've got an OTR report tonight, be sure to throw it up there. We'll report it to everybody. If you haven't been with us before, Jason's one of our OTR buddies, runs over the road, and every once in a while he sees some cool stuff on the road, so he gives us an OTR report. We'll see if he's got anything for us tonight, since he's missed the last couple of weeks. But anyway, I've got a lot of Hemi valve covers, DeSoto, Dodge, Chrysler. The industrial is kind of a neat one because it wasn't a very common one, as well as the Marine. I do not have a Marine. I'd like to find a Marine, and I do not have an Imperial valve cover. The Imperials had their own valve covers where they just said Imperial all the way across the front, because at that time, Imperial was its own car line. So they were technically considered their own brand, so the valve cover didn't say Chrysler Imperial. It just said Imperial. But like I said, I've got a ton of them. I'll try to work a few more in. I've got Red Rams, Firepowers, Fireflights, all those. So we'll keep working some of those in as well. But glad you guys enjoy it. And that's why we always try to put something cool up there. So Dan says, Dan said he's like Facebook. His wife says he's always lagging behind. Dodge town panel or town wagon fenders. Nothing there, T, on that. Let's see. Make sure we're all caught up on comments here. It looks like we are. But anyway, that's the deal with the valve cover. That's why it says industrial, not Firepower or Red Ram or anything like that. It was a power unit. Typically found in my area on like irrigation engines, but also used, like I said, literally they use them on air raid sirens and all kinds of different applications. So something kind of different. But anyway, getting back on track, what happened this week? Mecum Houston coming off a successful Glendale sale. Went through the results last night, texted my buddy Jim Wicks. He was there, and they said there again, they had another strong sale with a very high sell-through rate. And after skimming through the results last night, it sure looked like it. Not a ton of stuff on the bid goes on. Looks like they moved an awful lot of iron. So just a few of the things I did notice that kind of are following along with some trends I've been seeing lately. 90s pickups seem to be getting a little stronger all the time. If they're clean, especially nice, clean, original trucks, Ford, Chevys, and I'm starting to even see the half-ton gasser stuff go up. Obviously, the diesel stuff, the mid-90s Power Strokes, we've been seeing those starting to tick up over the last couple of years. But, we're starting to see even the nice, clean, half-ton regular stuff starting to come up. So did notice a little bit of that. They had some kind of cool stuff there we don't see very often. They had a 1988 Conquest. They were, a Mitsubishi that was imported and sold through Chrysler. Pretty neat little car, for their time. They were a very, kind of a groundbreaking design, nothing like them on the road. They had a clean one of those that did 26.4. There again, something you don't see every day, but that's what's, that's what we're always looking for, is the different stuff. But they did have a wide mix. I mean, of course, they're going to have Corvettes and Chevelles, but they didn't have any big collections that kind of focused on one or two types of things. Which sometimes those big sales, they can have one collection with 20 Mustangs or 30 Corvettes or things like that. They didn't have anything like that really. So they had a very diverse mix from what I saw on the computer. But, even they had a 42 Ford cab over ramp truck, really cool truck that hammered at 60,500. We mentioned last week the 1956 Ford Meteor Sunliner, a Canadian-built 56 Ford convertible. Pretty unique looking car. Obviously 56 Ford body, but its own grill and everything, very distinct. Sold for $42,900. William says the Frazier convertible. Yeah, I did see that. I didn't put that on my list, but that was a cool looking car too. But something else that we don't think about a lot, I've seen on their list, a 91 GMC Cyclone, the Cyclones and the Typhoons. Back in the early 90s, there was nothing like them on the road. And super cool little trucks. And they were quick, and there's not a lot of them out there. This one sold for $41,800. That's a 30-year-old pickup. You're talking $40,000. So, pretty cool to see, some of that stuff kind of starting to get a little respect. But on the other hand, if you like that stuff, kind of like I do, some of that's more my generation. If there's something you want, you better get it bought, because that stuff is going up by the day. But like I said, overall, it looked like they had a really good sale. And like I said, from what my buddy Jim Wicks told me, he said it looked like overall it was pretty strong. Not a lot of crazy stuff, but overall very strong. So Jason chimed in with us. Okay, drive Route 95 in Nevada going north of Vegas to Tonopah, Tonopah. He said tons of cool iron out there. And he said also it's a very beautiful run. So if you're out in that area, Route 95 north of Vegas to Tonopah, lots of cool stuff out there to see. So appreciate that, Jason. Like I said, we always try to work your OTR reports in whenever you can get on with us, and let everybody know what you're seeing out there on the highways as you're out there jamming gears and making those important deliveries that everybody relies on. And since we're just coming off the OTR report, we'll shift into the next subject, which is kind of somewhat related, since we kind of touched on the Meekin results. The next topic I've got for tonight may sound a little off course to begin with, because it is somewhat truck related as well. So we don't talk about a lot of big truck stuff on here. I'm not into semis. I don't know anything about them. They're cool. I like them. There's some gorgeous ones out there, but it's kind of out of my wheelhouse. I don't deal in them. I don't know much about them. However, we are members of the ATHS, the American Truck Historical Society. A good friend of ours, Danny Kuntz, who passed away last fall, signed us up for that. And I get their Wheels of Time magazine, and it's not all big truck stuff. They do cover pickup stuff and things like that in there as well. But there was an article in this one I got, probably a month ago or so, that really stood out to me. And even though it's talking about semi stuff, there were a lot of ties to our hobby as far as collector cars and trucks. Now, where we're gonna go with this, and it's like I said, it's kind of off topic almost, but when we first get into this, it's going to kind of sound off topic. Now, if you've been out on the road before, and I know we all have, and you're running down the interstate and you get behind a big tanker truck, it's very common to see a placard on the back of that truck from the Heil Company, H-E-I-L. Well, there was an article in this last ATHS magazine about the Heil Tank Company. I thought, well, that looks kind of interesting. Well, as I looked through some of the pictures, it was very interesting. They had some very interesting pictures that went way back. So I thought, well, I'm going to read this and see what I can learn. They actually went into business in 1901. So that's why there's a pretty deep history with this company. Scott just jumped on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it, Scott. So if you're rolling down the highway and you see a big tanker that has a Heil placard on the back from the Heil Tank Company, you'll think back about what we're going to talk about right now. Now, we think about, that's big semi stuff. Well, it is today. But back in the day, there weren't semis. There was kind of a developmental stage to get to where we're at today to move the amount of product that we can in those big tanker trucks today. So the Heil Trailer Company actually began as a rail welding company for the railroad. And then they started building tanks. As internal combustion engines started becoming more and more popular at the turn of the last century, they needed ways to move petroleum-based products. And that's where they came in. Their first tanks were for transporting kerosene. Don from Nashville just jumped on. Yeah, you're a few minutes late, but no big deal. You're still not too late. And actually, when they first started building these tanks, they were pulled by horses. And their original tanks were like hammered and riveted steel. So they weren't even welding tanks at that point. Mark just got on and was glad you made it, Mark. So that's when I started getting even more interested in this article. And this is in the first few paragraphs. Classic Ride Society made it. Glad you made it tonight. They didn't even start experimenting with actual electric welded tanks until 1910. So we got to go remember back in 1910, there were not 18-wheelers. They didn't have semis. They were developing tanks for the trucks that they had. So Benny sent you a message on Instagram. I don't know if that was for me, old school or not. I'm not sure where you're going with that. Chris is on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it. So this article got more and more interesting as I got into it, and that's kind of why I picked it out, because of all the cool stuff that it actually turned into that some of us are probably going to recognize. Obviously, you've seen tankers going down the highway with the Heil the Heil company plaque on them, but all the stuff that they're – okay, there we go. Okay, that was for Classic Ride. Great. Thanks for clarifying that. Jody's on with us from North Dakota on YouTube. Glad you made it. Carter says he found a tailgate for his International. Glad you found one of those. That's great. You don't lose everything out of the back. So they started obviously at the turn of the last century, and then as World War I came around, they started getting government contracts because World War I obviously being the first war where mechanized equipment was used. They were using trucks, they were using tanks, and even aviation at the point. So it came into effect. So that it was a pretty big deal at that point. So they obviously started gearing up more and more for that type of stuff. And then obviously which helped prop the company up even more, through the 20s and 30s, and then getting into World War II, they ran into the same thing. Well, throughout that whole development stage, that's when a lot of the really cool stuff started happening. Obviously, vehicles in the 20s and 30s, way more cars and trucks on the roads than there ever were. They had to move a ton of volume of petroleum-based products to get fuel to what were becoming gas stations, the fuel centers, things like that. So that's where this article got really interesting for me, and I hope for you guys being in the old car and truck hobby. This company built so many cool things that's what was so cool about it. They designed the frameless tank trucks as semis started coming, or what we know today as semis started coming together in the 30s, where they were actually pulling a separate trailer. But at that time, you got to remember, a lot of the stuff was still tank bodies on trucks. And that was what was so cool about it, is the stuff that this company developed. The Heil company actually did the airflow tank trucks. They did the tank bodies for the airflow tank trucks. And they would build different sizes, different amounts of compartments, all the super cool stuff that, was at the time, completely modern and new, because it had to be developed. There's a couple of pictures even here we can look at, like of this Sunoco truck that this company designed and built. And that's why this magazine article got, I thought was so cool, because we see these trailers on the road today. We don't think twice about them. I mean, if I remember seeing them all over. When I started reading this article, I was like, yeah, I remember seeing those. Well, now the last time I was out on the highway, when we went to Kansas City for Roll the Wheels trailers, because you start learning the history and learning the company, and you realize they've been around for 120 years and they developed all this cool stuff. In fact, another iconic vehicle that the Heil Tank Company was involved with was the Texaco Doodlebugs. Now, and a lot of you may not know what the Texaco Doodlebug was, but I've actually got a toy of it. So I got the toy out, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen these toys before. They're very common. I think they only made a half dozen of the actual trucks or something like that, just a handful of them. But, these little Doodlebugs were the Heil Tank Company body. If we look closely at the front, we see the T up here. Diamond T Trucks was who built the chassis, and the Heil Tank Company did the tanker bodies for the Texaco Doodlebugs. So there again, cool little pieces of history. I mean, you see pictures of the Doodlebugs. I still see them pop up on Facebook all the time. They get shared around so much because they were such an iconic vehicle. I don't know if any of these exist, but there again, as I'm reading this article, I found out this company that we still see these tankers running up and down the interstates today were designed and built the body for the Texaco Doodlebug. So, I mean, they've got, there's the box for the toy, dated 1934. I mean, these are plentiful. They're out there. They're not hard to get. And they're a great looking toy, and it's a cool looking piece. So that's why I got so interested as I got deeper and deeper into this article about the Heil Tank and Trailer Company, and about how it really, even though today it's all over the road semi stuff, but when we look back into history at what this company did and what they developed back in the day when tanks were on trucks, which pertains a lot to what we all like and love. It's like, man, this is pretty cool. And there's another really cool picture here that we'll try to show you of a bunch of Air Corps tankers. And this is, U.S. Army Air Corps tankers. This is pre-Air Force. I think it was 1947 when when the Air Force actually became its own branch. So, this would have been, pre-47, and based on the trucks, they look like mid to late 30s era trucks. So, that's why I thought this article was so cool. So next time you're out on the highway running down the interstate, you come up on a tanker, see if it's got a Heil placard on the back of it, and see if they, and think back that company was actually pretty instrumental in a lot of the really cool stuff that we love today and think about today. And the company actually is still in business. They're still producing stuff today. They, and throughout this, up into the 50s and 60s, as semis and 18-wheelers became more and more common, they developed different types of trailers, even, trailers to haul bulk powdered cement up into the 60s. Throughout the 70s, they developed different types of trailers with different compartments to handle different weights, things like that, based on different industry standards and what DOT allowed you to do and things like that. And then up into the 80s, it said they worked with DuPont to develop a trailer from titanium. So, not only different ways to carry things, but different materials to build the trailers out of to get longevity and productivity out of them. And the family actually ran and owned the company up until 1993. So, for a little over 90 years, it was all held within the family before they sold it off. Harold says most of the Michigan tankers are made by Heil. So yeah, there again, Chopper 1 made it tonight. Glad you made it, Chopper. So there again, something to just think about next time you're on the road. They actually were sold out in 93 to the Dover Corporation, was when the family sold it out. And then it said they were again sold out in 2012 to a group called American Industrial Partners. But the name still lives on. And one more super cool picture we'll throw up here of an actual full tanker of one hauling a Sinclair trailer. So there again, a little off course, not necessarily old car related, but a lot of cool stuff that fits right into what we love. And like I said, that's why I love the ATHS, the American Truck Historical Society, and the Wheels of Time magazine, because it's not just big semi stuff. This one here kind of transcends the car, truck, oil and gas, big truck. It kind of covered it all. Plus the fact that when you're running down interstate, it's not uncommon to come up behind a tanker and see that HEIL plaque on the back of there. So that's why it kind of rang a bell with me, and thought, well, that's kind of cool. They developed some super cool stuff. They developed a lot of things that a lot of us are used to seeing. And obviously, you know, the doodle bug, we've all seen pictures of the doodle bug pop up somewhere. So when you've realized that this company was instrumental in some of this stuff, and just like the airflow tankers, I believe there's an airflow tanker at the I-80 Truck Museum in Iowa. I think was the last time I saw an airflow tanker. Those trucks are amazing. So pretty cool. Scott says he's having an issue with Facebook. Yeah, Scott, we addressed that earlier. The last 2 or 3 weeks, Facebook does seem to be having some streaming issues. You can jump on over to YouTube if you want, to Nobody's Show. So far, we've gotten pretty good feedback on YouTube that it is working tonight. But the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have had people saying that Facebook has been up to 30 or 40 seconds behind YouTube, as well as feed issues. And like I said, I am hardwired into my modem on both computers. I'm not running anything on Wi-Fi, so I think it's a system feed issue is kind of what we're up against on the Facebook situation right now. So anyway, if you like trucks, the ATHS, the Wheels of Time magazine, it's a great publication. Like I said, that article kind of stood out because I'm used to seeing those tanks out on the road, but didn't really understand the history and all the super cool stuff affiliated with it. So hope you guys enjoyed that little segment. It was a little bit different, but still, to me at least, very interesting. All right. Anyway, yeah, it looks like we're caught up on comments. Facebook, obviously, we're not getting a lot of comments on Facebook either. They've been kind of spotty coming in. So I don't know if there's some feed issues there or not. Typically, when that happens and we're having this much delay issue on Facebook, usually after I get done and I go in and refresh the page, my comments will jump up by 20 or 30 comments. So we may be having some feed issues there as well, because the comments have been real slow and real spotty on Facebook. Chopper One, I've been good. I hope you're doing well. So anyway, if you're having trouble on Facebook, by all means, you can jump on YouTube. Hopefully it continues to roll on there. Anyway, who's ready for a cool old magazine? Let's check out the March 1960 issue of Motor Trend tonight. Got some cool stuff in here, as always. Of course, you know, that's the problem when you get into these old magazines and you're looking back in time 60 years. It's really cool because there's so much stuff in there that, you know, we're at the time we were looking at new news, and now we're looking back. So let's see. Randy's on Facebook. Old School is ready to go. Let's get the magazine out. Number one, really enjoy the yard walk. Probably try to squeeze them in about once a month. Some of that depends on weather. We're in Kansas. We get a ton of wind, so sometimes it's a little tricky to get a nice calm afternoon where I've got an hour or so where we can go out and do that, number one. But typically I try to squeeze them in about once a month, because there's enough stuff shuffles around, enough new things have come in that we can kind of get something done. So we'll try to knock another one out here in 2 or 3 weeks. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, click your heels when it gets windy. There's when it gets windy here, it's just windy, and it's tough. So let's see. Galvin, left fender for an 84 Cutlass two-door. I think I've still got some of those left. If you want to give me a call after we get done, I'll get you on my list and double check. Glenn says Facebook's working okay in Minnesota, so maybe it's regional. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, Old School is ready to go. Want to see the magazine. Great cover on this one from the March of 1960 Motor Trend. Stand up here. We got to show everybody what you look like. So Kevin just jumped on with us on Facebook as well. So here it is, the March 1960 motor issue of Motor Trend. Start checking out some of the articles that we've got in here. Shane says he still got his back into the 80s. Yeah. I go back into the early 50s, so you never know what we're going to come up with, Shane. Sometimes it may be 50s, 60s, 70s, even up into the 80s on some of that stuff. So, but tonight we're going to look at 1960. We're going to start off, as we always do with some articles. Then we'll get into some ads, then we'll get into some classified advertisements, and kind of follow the same format as we usually do. But we'll start off with, on page 34, the Plymouth road test. Now, that doesn't sound too exciting, a 1960 Plymouth. That's kind of what I thought. I looked up here and checked out had a big picture of a 60 Plymouth. Very unique car. Not the most desirable car today, but they are cool. You just don't see them. There were never a lot of them around. But as I looked down to the bottom of the page and seen some of the small snapshots they had, it got a little more interesting when you realize that this is a cross-ram equipped 1960 Plymouth. So that I thought that was pretty cool. That's something, that was a very unique design and not very well known at all. But it does give some details on the 1960 Plymouth. And it was obviously, they actually called it ram tuned, which that's kind of what they went with on some of that stuff. But one thing I did find kind of interesting is we've got a chart. They gave us a chart with some specifications from the road tests, like a lot of these magazines do. And thought we'd cover a little bit of that. Glenn says this was his birth year, so Glenn was born in 1960. But we had an acceleration chart, and of course we had some it had gas mileage and things like that. But one thing that I found very interesting, they had a segment in here called top speed, maximum speed 120 miles an hour, comfortable cruising speed from 50 to 90 miles an hour. So I thought that was very interesting right here when they said your comfortable cruising speed could be up to around 80 or 90 miles an hour. But gave gas mileage. And actually, this is kind of interesting as well. The gas mileage chart actually didn't just say mile per gallon city or highway like we are commonly used to hearing today. Over the road averages, 2-lane or 4-lane open road at 61 mile per hour, 14.1. 2-lane winding mountain road at 58 mile per hour, 12.6. 4-lane open road, mild hills, 68 miles an hour, 13.8. 2-lane level open road, 63 miles an hour, 14 miles the gallon. Overall average for 831 miles, 13.6. City driving, 11.4. I find that very interesting because they actually, yeah, like number one says, yeah, when you hit 88 miles an hour, better hang on because you may be back in 1960. But today, whenever it's just city and highway, that's all you got. And back, it reminds me back when I worked for Chrysler, in warranty administration, and people would buy a new car or truck and they weren't happy with the gas mileage. That actually breaks it down. If you set your cruise at 55 miles an hour, you're going to get a lot better gas mileage than you on a flat open road than you're going to get in the hills at 75 miles an hour. So I found that very interesting. That's one of the first times I've ever seen that, where they had it broke down into, 5 different driving conditions to look at differences in your mile per gallon. So I thought that was very interesting to actually see that much detail as opposed to city, highway, and people not really understanding what they're looking at. So something else, the next article we're going to check out that I thought was very interesting as well. And once again, we're looking back into the future with 2020 hindsight right now. GM's new GEM, a compact wide track. Now, you've got to remember, once again, we're talking March of 1960. Definitely, 6 months, 8 months before you're going to see the 1961 models. Or actually, 6 or 8 months before you're going to start building them, 8 or 9 months before you were going to see a 1961 model. That's right, Chris. Mobile Gas did economy runs on all that stuff as well back in the day. So, the mobile gas economy runs were a pretty big deal back in the day, too, where they actually did have more detailed, thorough testing. But this article, and like I said, there again, we're looking back hindsight 2020. Now we all know the Tempest came out in 61 and everybody knows what it was. This was all speculation, several months prior to that car being released. And this is what their opinions were as to what it was going to be. And it's it's kind of weird because when you look at the drawings and the sketches of what they saw as being Pontiac's new small compact, all they did was took the 1960 Pontiac full size and changed a few angles and emblems and sketched it out and said, this is what we think it's going to be. Obviously, as we know today, the 1961 Tempest looked absolutely nothing like this. But basically, this looks like a 60 Pontiac with a couple of different angles drawn on it. And that's what they called it. But there again, hindsight's 2020. See a couple comments popping up. Yeah. The number one says, yeah, it was different in 1960 because that's when doctors would smoke in a room and tell pregnant women you could smoke. So yeah, that's there again, a whole different world at the time, from what we're looking at now. Jody says father-in-law doesn't drive over 60 and claims he gets 23 miles per gallon in his Avalanche. And that's very possible because it makes a world of difference. If you drive 55, 60 mile an hour, you can tell a noticeable difference. I don't have that much patience, but the guys that do, yeah, you can get great mile per gallon at 55 if you never deviate from that for sure. Chris just jumped on with us. Glad you made it tonight, Chris. But they did get some of the stuff right in this article about the Tempest because it did talk about, I said they got it partially right because it said there had been speculation about mounting a pancake engine slightly larger than the Corvair in the rear. Remember, we're talking about the Pontiac compact. Although latest reports indicate current engineering preferences for the front position. Other engine possibilities are the Buick 235 aluminum engine, and here's where they kind of got it right. And there again, this is all speculation. This is several months before the car came out. A 189 cubic inch, but they said aluminum. I believe they were still cast iron, 4-cylinder inline that was based off the 389, basically half a 389, which is what they got when they actually came out. So that's there again, and it says it says if they use the Buick engine, it was going to have to be a 114-inch wheelbase. If a 4-cylinder, there's going to be a 112-inch wheelbase. So we all know today that they went with the obviously half of 389 4-cylinder. However, that was available with a 4-barrel carburetor too. So let's see. Classic Rides Society says you drive 55, 60 around here, you're probably going to get hit as everybody flies by you at 75 miles an hour. So yeah, and I know that happens. I think you're down in Texas, if I remember correctly. Spent a lot of time down in Texas when I was working for Chrysler. So a lot of time in Houston, things like that. So I'm familiar with a lot of the traffic down there. John's on with us on Facebook. Glad you made it. Hope you guys on Facebook are still hanging in there. Hope the feed's still going smooth over there. And we're not having too many feed issues. One more article we'll catch in this March 1960 issue of Motor Trend before we get into some of the ads as well as some classified advertisements. And I thought this was pretty cool because, there again, we're talking 1960. And there's an article about a car that was built for Bonneville. And obviously back then, the Bonneville salt flats, just like they are today, that was the place to go for speed trials. There were tons and tons of different things going on back in the day. Jody says slowpokes are all over North Dakota, so maybe you can get away with it in North Dakota better than Texas. But this article, 79 Tasman, run a little behind, but you made it. That's okay, no problem. 344.7 miles per hour with only a $2,000 car built in Bonneville's backyard. Ethel Graham has already gone 345 miles per hour, set his sights on 400. Now, the article says he was a 35-year-old Salt Lake City garage owner, and he spent $2,000 and a whale of time assembling a streamliner basically out of truck parts and surplus war parts. So kind of crazy. He says he fabricated a frame of his own, mounted 46 Lincoln front axle, spindles and brakes in the front, and a 1-ton GMC truck axle in the rear. And he felt he had the chassis and running gear to hold his power plant. A modified Allison aircraft engine. So It was originally an Allison aircraft engine, was used in boat racing, and then he got it to put it in this land speed car. So that was pretty cool. Yep, 79 Tasman. We already had a discussion about the industrial Hemi valve cover. That is a great piece. Everybody was excited about that tonight. But this was a pretty cool deal. That, and of course, $2,000 in 1960, 1959, 1960 was a whole different animal than it is today. But still, that was, not stupid money compared to what some of these guys, you look at what they've spent on Speed Demon and things like that to go back to Bonneville every year. And even if you put that $2,000 into $2021, and it would be nothing compared to what a lot of these guys spend to go to Bonneville every year. They've got a few pictures of the car we'll absolutely want to show you. There's one down here with the body on it. You can kind of see the shape of the streamlined body there. And then over here on the other side, had a picture of kind of the layout of it. You can see the Allison in there and see how they set that thing up for a budget build 345-mile-an-hour streamliner back in 1959. Let's see. Oh, Glenn's got an 89 Tahoe, gets 14 miles in the gallon at 70. Of course, he's got a 355 roller motor with 373 gears, so that probably affects it as well. Scott says, how do you get a 3/4 ton rear without high of a gear ratio? I would imagine they probably had to swap gears. They probably just used that because it was a heavy duty rear end, but I'm sure they had to put different gears in it. It did not break down what gears the rear end had in it. This wasn't a very in-depth article. There is that's all the text that was in it. So it didn't get real deep into it on that. But it did say 2 B-29 drop tanks and a P-51 canopy comprised the body. So it was aircraft aluminum and a P-51 canopy is what the body was made out of. So literally pretty much whatever he could find to scrape together to put this thing together. Jody says, what's the land speed record today? I don't know exactly what it is. I know that the Bloodhound Thrust SSC is for sale to try, and then that project is on a hoax. It was on for sale to try to break the speed of sound. 79 Tasman says 763 mile per hour. So is what it is right now. That's pretty close to the speed of sound, I think. So, but anyway, I thought that was very interesting that, this guy basically in his own shop with surplus World War II parts and whatever else he could come up with was built a 350 mile per hour streamliner. So that was pretty cool to see. Like I said, even though it didn't get real in depth, it was still cool to check all that stuff out. 763 is land speed record, what 79 Tasman says. So, Greg Myers from Salina's on, our big winner from last week. Glad you made it. Bates says Bates is looking for a 29 Dodge sedan hubcap. I don't know if I've got anything like that or not, but if anybody's got a 29 Dodge hubcap, Bates is looking for one on YouTube. Where gear ratio do you have to run to get 300 mile per hour, Scott? Well, that depends, of course, on your engine package too, on what RPM you can get out of your motor and things like that. So, I'm sure every one of them is different based on the transmission gearing and the way the engine's set up. So that's all going to play into it. Obviously, got to be a fairly high gear no matter what you do, but. Let's check out some of the ads that were used in the March 1960 issue. Enrique from Kansas City, glad you made it on. You haven't been here in a while. That's okay. You made it back tonight. Jody says their land speed record's 160. So, yeah, it's getting a little tough to go out and do that. But like I said, you can come to Great Bend and run hard for a half mile this in June on the standing half mile deal and see what you can do. That's going to be kind of interesting what some of those guys lay down. Rick, did I wash the Edsel yet? I haven't done anything with the Edsel. We had a ton of rain earlier this week, so it got a good bath. So we'll be getting you some video on that as well. But the first ad that popped up was right inside the inside cover, so it was real easy to find. And it's a station wagon, which is even cooler. So we definitely want to show that off. The 1960 Chevy station wagon. Wagons are cool. I love wagons. I think everybody should love wagons. So seeing a cool wagon, definitely had to throw that one in for the advertisements for tonight. See what's number one. Oh, yeah, you just got a 61 to 64 Ford Cruise-O-Matic. I don't know if you can hook a flat into that or not. I don't have any clue. I've never tried to do anything like that. I'm sure there's an adapter kit for it, because I mean, back then you could put about anything behind a flathead back in that day. So if nothing else, I'm sure there's an adapter kit for it. Jess loves wagons too, so that's great because I think everybody should love wagons because wagons are awesome. Let's see what else we got here. This is kind of a different ad. 1960, obviously for the Ford Motor Company, was a one-year car. And I thought this was a pretty cool ad because it was an action shot, which you didn't see a lot of in the day, of a 60 Ford Tourer hardtop. Looks like it's at speed, trucking down the road, spirited performance. Obviously, like I said, 1960 being a one-year only body for Ford, not a ton of them out there. Definitely something different, something we're not used to seeing all the time. So that's a pretty cool car, a pretty cool shot of a pretty cool car. With that fastback styling and things like that they used in '60. So that was pretty neat. Let's see. Yeah. Number one, like I said, I can't help you any more than that, but I'm sure there's some guys out there that can tell you what you can hook behind that flathead. That's what Jess says. Nothing wrong with cruising in a grocery getter. So, let's see. Like I said, every time I turn the page, there's something cool. So, got to kind of try to keep focused here on what I picked out that was really cool. Just like we talked about on the Pontiac's new compact on the Tempest. The 64 Starliner. I've never seen the Canadian Meteor version of that. The Edsel versions, the 60 Edsels, I'm a little bit familiar with. My good friend Phil Skinner, obviously with the Edsel groups, and probably one of the most world-renowned Edsel experts out there. He's actually got a 60 Edsel wagon. So, yeah, I think David W., I think that was the Starliner. That's what number one said it was as well. So, great-looking car. That's right, Kevin. Spirited performance. Enrique, I wonder what Ford plant made them. I don't know. I don't even know where all the Ford plants were at in 1960. So, but the next ad we grabbed was tied to the Pontiac Compact article that we just looked at. And if you remember when we talked about it, I said it looks like they took a 60 Pontiac and changed a couple lines and angles and emblems on it. Well, we've got an ad right now, and for the 60 Pontiac. And it says the only customizing the 60 Pontiac needs is a set of license plates. So obviously touting their own design and styling that they came up with for the 60 Pontiac. So we look at the back of this 60 Pontiac where you see the taillights, the backup lights. This had a fuel filler door, right here in the middle of that open where that badge was, and that was where your fuel filler was at. So we can take a look at that. And then if we look at the Pontiac article again, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about when we look at the rear of what they had touted for the new Tempest. So you can kind of see where I came up with that assumption that they just took the 60 Pontiac, resketched it, and said they think that's going to be the new Tempest. They kind of got the taillights on the lines of the trunk. Yeah, they do that all kind of tied together. Chris says Louisville was a major assembly plant for Edsel. So that, which obviously would have been in the same window. And I assume that they probably made a lot of those cars on the same assembly line since they were the same basic body and things like that. But I'm not sure on that. I mean, there's always, a lot of differences and things, but not 100% sure where that 60 Ford was made. Another ad that I thought really stood out, and there again, we're looking at this from 2021 and looking back to 1960. And this ad I thought was very different, and actually it's for a foreign car, which obviously we don't talk about much on here. I'm not big into them. I don't know them. I don't have the passion for them. I just don't know much about them. But what was different about this was a British car. And remember, we're talking 1960, 2 or 3 years prior to this company almost becoming a household name. The AC company. Right down here, we see the AC badge for their little sports car. The ASACAP or something like that. It was spelled ASECA, ACECA, the ACESECA, something like that. But obviously the name AC a couple years after this ad ran took on a whole different meaning after Carroll Shelby started importing them and putting Ford motors in them. So there again, looking back with the hindsight of 2021 and thinking, wow, that was a company that nobody probably really knew much about at that time, but a couple years later, it was going to be a whole different animal. In the entire car world, definitely in the performance world, but definitely in the entire car world. Chris says he's a big fan of the 60 Edsel, and they are a cool car. They are unique. They are different. And, let's face it, that's why we like this hobby, is different things. That's correct. That's why I brought that ad up, because AC is who made the Shelby Cobra body. So that's why that ad stood out, because in 1960, AC was not a very well-known company in the United States. But a couple years later, that was a whole different deal. Okay, let's flip forward a couple of more pages, and we will get to one of our regulars, the good old standard J.C. Whitney ad. Let's see what the J.C. Whitney had in 1960 in March. Just like we just talked about, engine and transmission adapter kits right here. So maybe they had one for that early 60s Ford transmission to a flathead. But there's there again, right there, something that we actually came up tonight, and that was one of the big things that J.C. Whitney had back then. Bates is on from Georgia. Glad you're here with us. 79 Tasman, love J.C. Whitney. Always cool stuff in here. We always try to catch a few highlights from the AC Whitney or J.C. Whitney ad. You can order jackets, club jackets from J.C. Whitney, as well as your performance parts. Lewis's question asking about the raffle. We'll get to the raffle here in just a minute. If you want to hang on with us, we'll get into all the details of the raffle again here soon. So just hang in there with us for a few more minutes, and we'll get to that after we finish up the magazine. Plaque mounting kits for your when they made the aluminum club plaques, you could get a mounting kit through J.C. Whitney. You could get a big key to put on your roof, make your car look like it was a wind up. Hubcap flippers. Obviously, we've talked a lot about accessory caps and things like that. All these things were mainstays in J.C. Whitney and in the day, and that's what so we've always got to check out a J.C. Whitney ad. Anytime we're in this era of the magazine, always got to check out the J.C. Whitney ad. What else we got? Oh, this was something else I thought was pretty cool. Flip back here a few more pages. And like I said, remember we're talking March of 1960 in this particular magazine. And here was an ad where you could purchase vehicles wholesale, but you had to join the club. So, and here it actually had prices. A full year subscription to the best car buys. You got 9 issues, wholesale purchasing, service, and membership card. And it actually gave prices, and it was kind of weird. It was like a club, to buy wholesale cars. And right over here on this side, it gave us a breakdown: Chevy Impalas, Pontiac Catalinas, Olds Holidays, Buick LeSabres, Ford Galaxies, with prices if you wanted to join the wholesale club. Said they had 359 Chevys available. 557, 58, 59 Fords, Dodges, all kinds of stuff. Plymouths with new tires. So there was just so many different ways that they were trying to promote this thing to buy wholesale, but you had to join the club. So to join the club, you had to send them $10 to be a member of the best car buys to get these deals. So I thought that was kind of interesting for to look back and see that was still a thing, to get your $10 out of them, or to get their $10 out of you to join their wholesale buying club. So yeah, Classic Ride Society, old school scam. So yeah, nothing new. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Glad you guys liked it as well. We'll catch one more ad, then we're going to dive into some of the classified section of this magazine. Then we're going to get to tonight's trivia as well as the raffle and new inventory for this week. But the last ad we had was inside the back cover. Another car that's pretty iconic and very well, not super popular, but very well known and very distinct styling was the Studebaker Lark. Not much like them at that time on the market. Kind of some of the earlier compact type stuff, city background ad. So something kind of cool there as well. Okay, now let's get this. The Motor Trend at that time did have a classified advertising section for people to send in ads for vehicles they had for sale. So let's get to the classified ad section here and check out some of the cool stuff that was for sale in 1960. I can find the right page here and stop looking at the other cool stuff that keeps popping up. So they weren't at the back. They kind of had them mixed in here somewhere. So it just take me a second here to find it. Here we go. The sell and swap section of the March 1960 Motor Trend. Let's see what kind of deals are out there in 1960. You could pick up a 1933 Lincoln Sports Convertible with a Murray body. Featured in the Saturday Evening Post article on Classics, like new, and they're firm on their price at $1,500. Another car for sale, a 1929 Duesenberg Murphy convertible coupe, restored, engine rebuilt, new top, blue with red upholstery and wire wheels. $7,650 would pick up $7,650 would pick up a 29 Duesenberg. Here's something else kind of interesting. Something a little different. 1949 Crosley Hot Shot. Crosley's little sports car version. I've missed some comments. I've had some stuff popping up. We kind of got into this, but old school just had to go to never buy from them if they say they're firm on their price. So I guess you can't pick up that 33 Lincoln for $1,500 because he's firm at $15 on it at that time. But the 49 Crosley Hot Shot, there was actually one at World of Wheels in Kansas City last week. They're a neat little car. They're something you don't ever see. They were kind of a sports car. They were a Crosley sports car, but they were very crude. But it was kind of neat to see one for sale in here. Engine just rebuilt, new paint, excellent tires, first $300. So those are neat little cars. Look them up if you haven't seen them or don't know much about them. Be sure to check out the Crosley Hot Shot. And kind of a little thing that just as people were starting to look for something kind of sporty, they were, like I said, they were crude. They didn't look real sleek or earth-shattering in design, but they were, Crosley was a pretty frugal company, pretty basic company. So for them, it was kind of stepping out of the box. Let's see. How about a 28 Rolls-Royce Phantom 1 convertible, completely restored to Rolls-Royce standards, complete and ready to drive home, $3,500. So that's right. Old school. Crosley does make records, still make record players. I've been seeing those pop up as well. And actually, Crosley was primarily an appliance and radio company back in the day. Cars were not necessarily their primary business. They did a lot of refrigerators. They did tons of radios. If you look back and you see a lot of the old shelf type radios that sat on the shelf, tons of those were Crosleys. I've got a really great Crosley neon clock, and I'm pretty sure it was Crosley radio stuff. So that's some pretty cool stuff there as well. So I know that I've seen those new record players, but that's actually what Crosley's primary business was. I don't know if it's the same company or not. I've never researched it. And like I said, more than likely, just like a lot of this stuff, it's using the name. They bought the name from somebody. So, couple more that we're going to catch, and then we're going to get moving on here. Let's see here. Flip the page. How about a 38 Packard, a V12 convertible coupe, excellent original condition, 47,000 miles, $2,000. So kind of different there as well. So now here's one of the really stood out in the classified section. We've got some comments popping up. I'll try to get to them here in a minute, but this really stood out to see this in a classified section of a Motor Trend in 1960. The Copper Cart is listed in the classified section in the sell and swap section for sale. The Copper Cart was a Barris-built custom, 1956 Chevy pickup. We'll go through kind of what they had in here about it. Winner of many sweepstake trophies throughout the nation, 4-inch chop top, 5-inch body section, 8-inch channel, 54 Corvette engine, chrome reverse wheels, all copper and chrome plated, 30 coats of diamond dust paint, completely custom built. Interested parties only. Write or call George Barris at 11054 Atlantic Boulevard, Linwood, California. And then they had an old phone number. So pretty cool to see, just to see it. A Barris custom, a vehicle that in today's world is iconic and cherished and put on a pedestal. It was in the back of the Motor Trend in the sell and swap section for sale. So that, obviously today, something like that would go to a big auction. It would be a lot of publicity, a lot of press. They sent in a classified ad to the sell and swap section to put the pickup up for sale. So, so that's kind of what's going on there. A couple more comments we need to catch up to. Was General Electric ever involved in the auto industry? That I'm not. I know they never made a car that I know of. But I'm sure they were involved in some way, shape, or form, at least with components and things like that. I don't know if we've got some Facebook feed issues or not, but I haven't had any comments on there in a while. And I assuming that we're probably still having feed issues because the numbers on Facebook are dropping. It looks like we're catching a few of them back up on YouTube. So if we are still having problems on Facebook, by all means, please jump over to the Nobody Show channel on YouTube. And seems like the feed is going fairly smoothly over there. So anyway, that's kind of what I had for the March 1960 issue of Motor Trend. And hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, we'll do another one next week. Kevin says he's still got a good feed on his end, so some of the Facebook is still working. So that's good to know. But that's what we've got cooking right now. So let's get into some trivia. The can we've got tonight, Phillips 66 Trop Arctic. This is a quart can, cardboard can, very nice condition. And like I said, a lot of people don't collect the cardboard cans. I think they're great. The cardboard cans are absolutely not going to stick around like the metal cans did. These cans, once they get aged and weathers, will actually like crush themselves. The cardboard will go away. They will fall apart. So definitely not. I don't think there's going to be as many of them around. And you got to think, these cans are 40 years old now, probably. My buddy Mike says, Facebook be working, just like the Busch beer going down. So, but tonight and for the next several weeks, actually, we've got a can sponsor. A good friend, Mike Shook at Auto Artistry in Russell, Kansas. He stopped by yesterday. He brought me a big tub full of oil cans that he came across. He said, hey, let's give these away. So I said, absolutely, that's what we're going to do. We've got Mike's card on this one. The next, I don't know how long, I don't know how many cans are in that tub. There's a bunch of cans in there. They're all going to be sponsored by Auto Artistry. So be sure to check out Mike Shook at Auto Artistry. Check him out on Facebook. Give his page a like. He's got a lot of cool builds going on over there. Some square body Chevys. Just got a 48, 49 Dodge pickup in. Does a ton of cool stuff. You can go to his website at autoartistry.com and check out his gallery of all the builds they've done over the years. Do a lot of cool stuff over there. So huge shout out to Mike. Big thanks for sponsoring the cans for the next several weeks. And we're going to give this one away and get it out to our winner. Is it better to empty the oil out of the cardboard cans? I like to, but I don't like to leave oil in anything because even the metal cans, they can start, seeping around the seams and things like that. So I don't like leaving oil in anything. just because I don't want it leaking on a shelf, making a huge mess, anything like that. So I always try to drain everything that I keep around. So anyway, like I said, this is cardboard, but it's in great shape. It's got great colors. Even the back still has instructions on it. If we look above the card, it even has the weight stamped into the lid. This was 1040 on this particular one. So cool can there. Huge shout out to Mike. Be sure to check him out. Well, he's going to be sponsored, like I said, the next several weeks for the cans. So question tonight, we'll be watching for the first correct answer on either format. Whatever pops up first is what I'm going to take. If you've been hanging out with us, you've been watching the videos from the Auburn Core Duesenberg factory in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. The video we posted the other night, our new good friend Doug Prey broke down the details of when his dad brought back the second generation of the Auburn Boattail Speedster. Now, when he did that in the late 60s, they used different drivetrains in them. What powered those Glen Prey Auburn Boattail Speedsters? So keep an eye out on both formats. For whoever gets the first correct answer that pops up that the system feeds me, we'll fire this oil can out to them. So anyway, I'm watching for that. What powered those Glen Prey Auburn Boattail Speedsters? So on to the raffle. We've had a few questions about the raffle. No, they weren't Lycoming's old school, so that's not what they used in. These are the Generation 2 Glen Prey. There we go. They were Chris got it. They were all Ford powered. They said Lincoln 460s. They ran anything big block Ford. So Lee came in right after that with it. But Chris was first with the Ford power on that with the Lincoln. They ran whatever they could get at that time, 429s to 460s. They ran all of them. Mike's on with us, says give those cans away. That's what we're doing. So Jerry's just jumped in with us. He's at 360-40, probably meant 460 as well as that. It may have been some lag time on Facebook, so I'm not sure about that. But Chris was the first one with it. Glenn says Facebook is still working in Minnesota, so hopefully that's a go there. So give me a shout this week, Chris, and we'll get this can on the way to you. And stay tuned. We got lots more cool ones from Auto Artistry to give away. Now, on to the raffle. Lewis was asking about the raffle. Here's what we've got for the raffle. Once again, from the Auburn Core Duesenberg Company, our friend Doug Price sent us these pieces, made us a good deal on them so we can give them away to you. This is what is going to be given away at the end of April. Same deal, $1 a chance. Every dollar you send me, your name goes into the big Buick oil can one time. Send me $5, you go in 5 times, 10 times, you go in 10 times, et cetera, et cetera. Same thing we did on the badge raffle. This time, what we're giving away, these are brand new pieces, still leftover new old stock from the Auburn Core Duesenberg Company in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Auburn cap, I call them a hubcap. They were technically kind of a grease cap. These are the smaller ones, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 inches across. We look in the back. These are new, never been used. Same with this one, another Auburn cap. Great detail in these things. Once again, brand new. These are straight out of the factory. And a brand new, never stamped, 90-year-old Auburn ID tag. This is straight out of the drawer of the parts cabinets that were moved from Auburn, Indiana to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma in 1960. It was never stamped. They had a few of these left in the drawers that never got used. Everything's blank on it, brand new piece. So that's the raffle for tonight, or for this month, excuse me. We'll give those away. I think it'll probably be the first week, or probably either right at the end of the month or right at the 1st of May, depending on how the Sundays fall as to when we give that away. So be sure to get in there, $1 a chance. You can PayPal me. My PayPal address is in the comment section on both YouTube and Facebook. Be sure to put on there, if you PayPal me, that it's for the raffle, and make sure that I have some sort of contact information to get a hold of you if you're the winner. Just like last week's winner was not on with us. He was at an Easter function. He did have an email address, so I was able to contact him. But make sure I've got either an email or preferably a phone number would probably be the best. But like I said, whatever Is there a minimum on it? Number one, there really isn't. I would at least hope you would send a couple bucks, because just the transaction fee on PayPal is like 35 cents. So if you send me $1, I got to give most of that to, by the time I pay the percentage in the transaction fee, I got to give most of that to PayPal. So I mean, I would ask you to at least maybe send in $5 just because of what PayPal's taking. But like I said, it's whatever you want to, whatever you want. If you want 5 chances, if you want 100 chances, it's whatever you guys prefer. However much you put in, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, your name will go into the Big Buick can that many times for the drawing. So we got Robert on with us. Glad you made it, Robert. So that's what's cooking for the raffle this month. Be sure to get in on it. Super cool stuff. Stay tuned. We got lots more good, cool content coming from there. The first 4 videos I posted from the Auburn Cord-Duesenberg Museum, we're just sitting in Doug's office chatting about the company that his dad had and about the cords. He reintroduced the second generation of the cord in the 1960s, and then the Auburn Boattail Speedster. We've got a lot more stuff coming up from there. Now we're going to start getting into the cars, the shop, the parts. The interviews aren't exciting as far as pictures or cool stuff to see. They're fascinating for the stories, but we're just sitting in the office talking on those. So we're going to start showing you some of the cars and the restorations going on and the parts inventory and some cool stuff like that on those as well. And I don't know if some of you guys were on with us on Toy Tuesday last Tuesday night. We checked out the cord, hood, and grill that I got. And I'm absolutely in love with that piece. I hope you guys caught that. If you didn't, be sure to check that out. William jumped on with us right out of the gate today and said, "Don't paint that thing. It's too cool." But I don't know if I want to paint it or not. But regardless, I love this stuff because it's history. That cord, hood, and grill that I've got is, they made 2,800 and some odd of those cars in 2 years. That's all of those pieces that exist. So not exactly going to stumble across those at the next swap meet. So really excited to add that to the collection. Thanks for the support, Robert. Robert says, let's hit the thumbs up. So appreciate that. The big gulp is water. I talk too much on this thing. I get to rambling so much. It's water. I got to keep hydrated. So I'm just sucking down water is all I'm sucking down tonight. That's all I have on this thing because I get too dehydrated too quick. So lots of water. But anyway, catch a few more things and we'll get ready to wrap up. My buddy BJ just got on. He's been out working on his Impala, so that's all right. No big deal. New inventory this week. Let's see. Oh, Mick just said he did not really see much of anything pop up on that at all this week. Obviously, the few weeks before this, been a lot of scuttlebutt in the news about that, a lot of it on Facebook. Did not really see much pop up this week. That's a good idea, Mick. I made note of that. So I'll kind of keep an eye on that this week to maybe see if there's something for next week's episode. Because obviously that's very important to what a lot of us do. And we want to make sure that we don't get in a bind on that where the government literally can't let us do anything. So, William says the hood matches the decor of the shop. Yeah, it kind of does. But like I said, I'm just so excited about it. Let's see. Linkage for the Cruise-O-Matic or Edsel trans in the steering wheel. I don't know for sure. Depends on what you need. I've got some Edsels that had the steering column shift, but I have zero idea what those systems consist of. So there may be some stuff there, but it would have to be pretty specific as to exactly what you needed on that number one to see if for me to even know what I was looking for on that. But new inventory this week. We'll be getting some videos on some of this stuff coming up here pretty quick. I picked up a 39 Ford truck Monday. I bought it a few weeks ago. I think we mentioned it. I did get it picked up and hauled in. It was 1.5 tons. It's just a chassis cab. But obviously it's the 3-rib 3839 only cab. The cab's really pretty solid on it. I was pretty impressed with that. Some dents and things in the roof. But overall, pretty solid cab. It's old school. Government's always got their nose in everything. Well, like I said, with what they're trying to push through where you can't modify any vehicle, this would be a pretty far-reaching law if they got it pushed through. Did buy a couple more today. I got one of them picked up. We'll be getting you a video on it here pretty quick. Very unique car. I love the styling on this car, on these cars. Chris, what's the engine in the Edsel that I got this week? You would ask me that. And Phil actually broke it all down. And I don't remember, but it was like a bigger engine, like a 360 or something, 361, because Phil said that he only had a handful of that four-door Ranger with that engine in his Edsel registry. So I do know that. I'd have to look it up and go back through the text that Phil sent me where he broke it all down as to exactly which engine it was. At least I assume it's there. I haven't had the hood open yet, but based on the VIN, that's what it's supposed to have, was I think a higher performance 361. That's what Dan says. When government gets involved in anything, it's going to be a mess. Why do the Old School says, why do they care? It's all emissions, and the EPA is what's pushing it, because they think that that all these modifications are going to pollute the air and ruin the world. So it's all 100% EPA based is why they are chasing it. So, but anyway, the one I got today, super unique car that I've always thought was a great design. Not the most popular car in the world. This car is complete, but it is a four-door, but they're just so cool. And when I get the video done, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. 1939 Chrysler Royal. Just an amazing looking car, waterfall type grille. I thought they were a great design. And of course, a lot of stuff in the 30s was a great design, but Chrysler was a premier car, and they were so unique. Taillights on this car are amazing. Can't wait to show you the taillights. So we'll get a video on that car hopefully here soon. You'll get to check that one out, but I'm pretty excited about it. Like I said, I don't think there's a ton of them out there. I really don't know how well the car is going to do for parts. Like I said, it is a complete car, and it could definitely be built. But, I don't know what the demand would be. And obviously you'd put way more money in it than what it would be worth. But it is a super cool car. So when we get the video done, you guys can check it out. Let me know what you think. See if you dig it as much as I do or not. Also bought a Camaro out there. When I picked up the 39 Chrysler, over in the corner, there was a building that you couldn't hardly see in. I said, yeah, there's a Camaro back in there. So did a little crawling around, and there is a 79 Camaro back in there. Basically, they backed it in there about 15 years ago and started stacking around it. So actually shot a video on the Camaro as I found it, and I did buy it. Okay, I hope, because I already wrote a check for it. I couldn't even hardly see it when I wrote the check for it, but so we did a short video there today. We'll get that up this week, and the as found, so to speak, condition on the 79 Camaro. They started digging it out, so hopefully we'll get it picked up maybe sometime this week or next weekend once they get stuff moved around. They actually did put the car up on blocks when they put it in storage, so we need to get it down, see if they can get some air in the tires and get it moved out. But excited to bring that one to you too, so be sure to check that video out. It'll be kind of cool. We may throw that up tomorrow night at 7 for our regular video, but it's kind of different. And like I said, we think 79, that's not that old. 79 is 42 years old. That's an antique about anywhere, and they're getting hard to find. And this is a base Camaro. Didn't even have a spoiler on it. I mean, how many late 70s Camaros didn't have spoilers? Just a base, plain, regular Camaro, which almost kind of makes it neat because that's what it is. And it's never been monkeyed with. They didn't try to hop it up. They didn't try to bolt a bunch of stuff onto it. It's got some Chevy Rally style wheels on it, no spoiler, and just a 305 V8 automatic, just base, clean looking old Camaro. So it's got about a half inch of dirt on it. When we get it out, we'll get a little better idea what we've got. But I'll try to get that video up of the one just where we found it in the shed today. We'll try to get that up tomorrow night. And then obviously once we get it dug out, get it hauled in, get it cleaned up a little bit, we'll see what we've got. We'll definitely get you some more video on that as well. So Mike says, I thought high rollers paid cash. Well, yeah, I got to keep track of some of this stuff. So what else we got? We got some stuff popping up. I'm sure I missed some of it. But Dan says those old Chryslers were cool. Yeah, neat car. Can't wait to bring you a video on it. And like I said, the taillights, the grill, so many just awesome, unique features about this car. 79 Tasman was a 79 to 81 Camaro guy. Like I said, kind of excited to get this one drug out. It's always exciting to find one buried like that, except for the fact unless it's all rusted out when it comes out. Since I already own it, we'll see. Ironhead finally made it, run a little bit behind tonight, but it's all right, no big deal. So that's stuff that I found this week. We'll be reading some videos on that stuff. Obviously, like I said, we've got the 39 Ford truck is here. I did a video on it today. I'll try to get that up. We'll try to throw up the video on the 79 Camaro as found, and then we'll get you some more on that in a couple weeks. Lots of stuff happening. I've got a lot of videos. I've got a lot of inventory coming in. I haven't even had time to show you guys yet. So we'll definitely be getting some more content out this week. And then obviously and as always, we'll do Toy Tuesday live Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock. I may even throw a bonus video in this week. We'll see how things go because I've got so much stuff going on. It's almost getting to the point where I'm going to end up starting to get behind on some of this stuff and miss something. And I don't want to miss, not getting a video out on something to you guys. So, because that's why I always tell you, keep your eyes peeled. That's where the stuff's going to pop up on new videos. Plus, like I said, we're going to mix in some more stuff from the Auburn Cord Duesenberg Company, and we're going to start getting, like I said, into the cars, the parts, the restorations, the Auburns that they actually built there. We took one to lunch, the dual cowl Auburn Fayette, and we took it to lunch. That was a great time. So lots more stuff coming up there as well. So anyway, that pretty much burns through my notes for the night. Glad you guys all made it out tonight to hang out. If you've got any other questions, comments, be sure to throw them up there, and we'll sure try to get to them before we wrap up here. I'll keep my eyes peeled as we get ready to wind down. Ironheads. Oh, yeah. I remember that, Ironhead. Your first car was a 74 Camaro. You said something about that when I picked up that 74Z. So that's so obviously I'm a big fan of the second gen F bodies as well. So that's why I was kind of excited to find this car, even though it was a plain regular Camaro. That's almost what's kind of cool about it. It's a plain regular Camaro. It's not something somebody monkeyed with. It's not something somebody modified. It's not a car somebody tried to make something out of it that it isn't. It's just a clean regular old Camaro. Glenn's on. Well, I'm glad you're having fun. I'm glad you love what we're doing, Glenn. I'm glad you always make it back. So, Phil, manual transmission for a 93 Silverado. I don't have anything there. That's all right, Ironhead. I knew where you were going with it, even though Camaro was misspelled. It put an O in there for you. So, his dad's first car was a 72 Cutlass Supreme. Oh, old school dad's first car was a 72 Cutlass Supreme. Once again, great cars. So, anyway, that's kind of what I've got. As always, I appreciate you guys coming by tonight. I'll keep my eye on comments here for the next minute or two as we get ready to wrap up. As always, if you have questions, comments, be sure to just give me a shout this week. Chris, be sure to give us a shout so I can get your address, get this can on the way to you. As always, call me if you've got questions. Is the Lawrence Classic Ride Society, is the Lawrence Swap Meet good on Friday, as I don't think I'll be able to be there on Saturday. Typically, I go Friday and Saturday is typically when I go. So I typically Friday is fine. Usually most guys are starting to come in on Friday. So Varmints made a home in that Edsel. If you caught the Edsel video we put up the other night of the Edsel excavation, yes, there were varmints in that Edsel, and you haven't even seen all of it yet. When I opened the trunk, it was packed. I mean, I haven't opened the hood. I'm sure it's packed as well. So be sure to check that out on from last week from the Edsel excavation video. So anyway. But as always, like I said, if you got questions about vehicles or parts, you have friends that got questions about vehicles or parts, give me a shout. Texts don't work. Emails don't work. Just like this morning. I get a text this morning. What do you have for Chevrolets? I have zero idea how I'm supposed to answer what I have for Chevrolets, because that would take about a day and a half to put a list together of what Chevrolets I have. So that's why the texts and emails, they're not clear. That's why the best thing to do is just give me a call. So that's all I can say. Just give me a shout if you got any questions. As always, lots of comments popping up. Lots of kind comments. And I appreciate all that. And like I said, your guys' support is what makes this fun. It would be pretty boring for me to sit here and talk into a computer if you guys weren't here hanging out. But that's why it's enjoyable. And like I said, the camaraderie and the car guys we've got on here makes it a blast. I don't always catch all the comments. It's impossible to between Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the different formats. Plus on like Facebook, I'm no expert at this digital media by any means, but I know enough that is a lot more than a lot of other people know, which actually gets me in trouble because I've got a lot of people that I help with it. So, there again, I'm admin on like 7 different Facebook pages. So every time I go into the email that is tied to the Facebook account, I just go in and start clicking delete boxes because there's row after row after row of commented on. There's just no way to keep up with all the different comments on the formats. So I do catch some of them sometimes. I do appreciate all your guys' kind words, all your support. We've got a few of them popping up right now. And it's like I said, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it enjoyable is all that support and what we do on here. So I'm going to sign off. If I missed you, I apologize. Sometimes we've got some feed issues on comments. That does happen, especially the way Facebook was acting tonight. Probably one of those nights where I go in and refresh and have about 20 or 30 more comments pop up in the total number of comments that I was not even aware of. So, so be sure to, hang in there with us. Be sure to check out the new videos that's coming up this week. And like I said, I may even have to throw a bonus one in there. We'll see how it goes. Be sure to jump on with us Tuesday night for Toy Tuesday. We'll find some more cool stuff to look at, some more cool memorabilia to check out, and have a good time with that. So, as always, thanks for watching, everybody. It means a lot to me that you guys take a pretty good chunk of your Sunday evening now at this point. This deal started out to be about 30 minutes, and we're almost 3 times that and have been for the last several weeks. But, it's because of you guys. It's your comments. It's your interactions. And everybody jumping on here and having a great time is what makes this thing work. So that's the great part about it, and I super appreciate that. Phil on Facebook says he's got a 5.3 LS for sale. If anybody's looking for one of those, you can hit him up on Facebook. So Dan says his texting's a snail's pace. So like I said, I am definitely no expert at what I'm doing here, but we're having fun doing it. I fumble my way through it. I figure out, if there's something I need to learn, I figure it out. We've had some comments about me trying to go to wireless mics for the videos. I've started doing some research on that to see what I can figure out there, if I can get something like that to work with my iPhone, because everybody's in this together. This is all about our group and what we do on here, and that's what makes it fun. So, like I said, lots of thanks to me, but it's not me. It's all of you guys. It's all of us. It's a group, and that's why it's a chat. It's not about what I do. It's about a chat and everybody hanging out and having fun. So thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to hang out with me on Sunday night, to watch the videos, and I hope you're enjoying them. So thanks to you guys for making this all happen. I appreciate it. And I'm going to jump off of here. I've got still got a lot of work I need to get done yet tonight, and be back down here first thing in the morning to start getting some parts packaged and getting ready to get out of here. And I've got to start picking some cars up. Holy cow, I've got stuff bought everywhere. I need to go get drug in. So stay tuned. More cool stuff coming up. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Hope to see you Tuesday night on Toy Tuesday, and definitely hope to see you back here next Sunday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, for Sunday Night Live Chat, either on Facebook or YouTube. Have a great week, everybody, and we will see you soon.